This is David Randall, Master Lecturer at Boston University School of Management. This vidcast is titled Rudiments of Online Legal Research. This vidcast purpose is to introduce undergraduate students to the use of LexisNexis Academic for basic research. It assumes students, from using Google and other online search engines, have basic familiarity with constructing search queries. If this vidcast encourages users to experiment with LexisNexis Academic to further their own research, I will be very happy. Google is great. I use it for all sorts of important research, like finding pictures of my dog's breed, Nova Scotia duck-tolling retrievers. Click on images, and this is the type of dog I have. I used to have two. Fortunately, now I only have one. I use it for important intellectual questions. Let me see. Homeland starts on October 5th. Great. But using Google for legal research is problematic. So I enter the term voyeur-dorm, which is one of the first cases assigned in LA 349. Which is also risky to do in a vidcast assigned for class, since the search term voyeur-dorm could lead to all sorts of NSFW, not suitable for work, content. It gives us these results, which look relatively okay. And one of the first hits, the first hit actually, brings me to the Wikipedia page for voyeur-dorm. I'm not an idiot. I know sometimes students read the Wikipedia entry for a case instead of, or in addition to, reading the original opinion I assign. How do I know this? Because sometimes the language in a student's case brief does not read like a student read it. Sometimes, not in this instance, but sometimes the Wikipedia entry deals with a different case, not the case I've assigned. And students, in their ignorance, wind up on the wrong page and write a brief about the wrong case. So, for instance, this is one of the hits when we search for voyeur-dorm. Looks like the voyeur-dorm case. It says voyeur-dorm. But this is the federal trial court decision, United States District Court, Middle District, Florida, 2001, 121 F sup. This is not the 11th Circuit decision assigned for class. And so when a student writes about the entirely wrong case, then it tells me that they haven't done the reading. So these stories don't have happy endings. These hits could be improved, or the quality of the results could be improved, if we did the search on Google Scholar. So it used to be easier to get to Google Scholar. You didn't have to search quite as far to find it. But if we open Google Scholar, scholar.google.com, and we do a search for voyeur-dorm case law, then this gives us a list of cases, which is good, but there's no structure to these results. If you don't know the difference between F sup and F third, you could waste time looking at the wrong case. This is why we use LexisNexis Academic, which we can access through the BU library system. So there's lots of different ways to get there. I have a bookmark saved on my toolbar that brings me to the list of BU library databases, the entries under L. Click on LexisNexis Academic, which brings me to the login screen, to the landing screen. I'm already logged in to the BU system through Kerberos, so I didn't have to stop at the Kerberos login page. If I was opening this for the first time today, then obviously I would have logged into Kerberos first, and then I would have come here. So this is the LexisNexis Academic landing screen, and this is where you should wind up, however you get here. And so the first thing we want to do is let's do a topic search. So let's say you want to research internet music streaming. A search for music stream internet. We'll check what advanced options are selected, and for now we want all of them selected. We search for this, and it produces 993 results. That's a lot. This is almost 1,000 hits, the vast majority of which are newspapers, 937. Many others of which are web-based publications, so in essence, online newspapers. Only a few of the hits we got for that search relate to the law. Now, if you wanted to read news articles about internet music streaming, this was a good place to begin. You can see lots of these headlines look relevant. Record labels sue internet radio service. Billy Joel, Rihanna take on Pandora. Amazon spreads its digital web, etc., etc. So this is a good place to, get an overview. But if we want to get beyond that, to get an understanding of the legal environment, we have to do something more. So this lists the results, the sources by category, and we can see that 2 of the results are law reviews in journals. I'm not going to waste time with this one. I looked at it before, and it has nothing to do with internet music streaming. So let's click on this first article. The Harvard Journal of Law and Technology has a very promising title. And when you look at your results in LexisNexis, there's different ways to look at them. There's different ways to present them. If you click on this menu next to Show, if we do an expanded list, this will give us of the results for that particular category. It will give us instances to show where the various search terms that we've entered show up. A lot of detail in this particular case. And it can help you determine whether or not a particular source is on point. We want to go to we'll take a look at the full document here. And this is a fairly recent law review article from the Harvard Journal of Law and Technology. It's got that Harvard brand on it. And it has a very promising title, Stream Capture, Returning Control of Digital Music to the Users. There's a brief summary at the beginning and discusses increases in internet connection bandwidth and other advances in compression technology have allowed streams to flourish. So if you are interested in learning more about streaming, this law review article looks like a great resource. We're not going to read through it. But what I want to do is scan down to the footnotes to make a point. So here are the various footnotes. And as you look through them, you can see there's links to online sources, to articles, music, streaming websites, Pandora, Spotify, a Wikipedia site. Interesting that shows up in a Harvard Law Journal article. And as we scan through this, you'll see that while there are lots of different sources here, there are really not very many cases. There are very few case decisions. So we scan all the way down to footnote number 54 before we find one of the first case decisions. And this reinforces a point that I've made in class, that the legal environment for most businesses is not defined by case law. It's defined by statutes and regulations. So let's click on this case, the Real Networks versus DVD Copy Control Association case. We're going to open it in a new tab. And so this is the full summary, or excuse me, the full text of the court opinion in this case. Now, note a couple of things. On LexisNexis, most of the cases have headnotes, have this information at the top, which is not part of the original case written by the court. Instead, this is editorial content created by LexisNexis, or if you're using another resource created by that particular reporting service. And it gives us a summary of the case, the procedural posture, an overview of the case, the outcome, and it gives us various core terms and a series of headnotes that actually link to places in the text where these particular items are discussed. So you can see from this that this case spends much of its time discussing the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, 17 United States Code, Section 1201 et sec., which is the DMCA anti-circumvention provision, which you'll learn about more later this semester. You'll actually read my abridged version of this DVD CCA case. The original case is quite long. And some other things to note when you find a case on LexisNexis. This gives us the subsequent history. Claim dismissed by Real Networks, Inc. versus DVD Copy Control Association. So this is a later federal district court decision that, if you read it through, this primarily actually deals with antitrust issues. And if you read through it, you'll see that the court grants the motion for summary judgment of the Universal City Studios et al., the DVD CCA, which represent the copyright holders in the case. We'll go back to the first decision we found. This also gives us the prior history of the case. So if you wanted to go back and read about what happened in the case before, you could go here. But the fact that you found this case in a law journal article that was cited there is some indication that it is probably the most complete statement of this court's opinion in this, or this court's position on the law concerning music internet streaming, at least in this particular dispute. Another resource that you need to become familiar with is shepherdizing. So we're going to go up here to next steps, and we can either go back to original results or go to click shepherdize. So we'll do that. And that opens yet another window. If you go to law school, one of the first things you will learn about in your legal research course is, research and writing course, is Shepherds, what it is and how to use it. Shepherds is a legal reporting service that tracks every citation to every case and every opinion issued in the United States. Lawyers use Shepherds to learn the history of a case, figure out which opinion is final, and learn how other courts have cited a particular case as precedent. So if we look at the summary here, we can see that there's no negative subsequent appellate history, meaning that there was no later appellate decision that overturned the trial court decision, that there are two positive analyses, which means that two courts have actually followed the reasoning in this particular case. And then there are also a number of other citations to this case in law reviews, statutes, treatises, and court documents. So scanning down the list of citing decisions, there are 9 of them listed. And they're first here cited by federal district courts. So you can see all of these, or certainly many of them, look like internet, streaming content related cases, although not all of them. Northland Family Planning Clinic doesn't look like an internet case. So it was cited this DVD case for some other purpose. The other district courts in the 11th Circuit. So this tells us about the history of the case. There are links here to the statutes that are cited that mention it, links to law review articles. And again, if you want to get your arms around an area of law, once you find a case that's on point, if you shepherdize it, that will lead you into the other aspects of the law. So let's go back to our search window. And let's do this. We're going to do a new search. So let's enter the term Voyeur-Dorm and see what we get, just to compare it with the results we got before. Do a search for Voyeur-Dorm. We don't have to worry about NSFW content showing up here. And you'll see that there are 264 results, most of them newspapers, a good number of law reviews and journals, and 19 other cases. And by default, the results are listed in source order. So there is the United States Supreme Court is listed first, and then courts of appeals, and then other sources, going from the court decisions to newspapers, online sources, things like that. So let's just look at the list of cases. So you remember when we searched for this before on, I close that window so I'll go back to it. When we searched for this before in Google Scholar, we got a list of cases, but they weren't presented in any structured fashion. So let's look at the 19 cases and see what we have here. Again, these are listed in source order from highest court to lowest, and we see that there's actually a citation, a reference to a decision by the Supreme Court of the United States. So let's click on that. Did the Supreme Court get involved in this Voyeur-Dorm case? No. This is the entire opinion. Petition for writ of certiorari to the United States Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit denied, meaning that there was an appeal by the city of Tampa to the United States Supreme Court seeking further review, and it didn't go anywhere. Okay, can check that off our list. We'll go back to the results list, back to the list of cases. And if you look through them, while there's 19 different cases that are listed here, if we look at them more closely, we see that many of these, in fact, a majority of them, relate to the Voyeur-Dorm case. So that tells us a couple of things. One, that Voyeur-Dorm had a very full life in the court system. It went through a lot of iterations, a lot of different district court decisions and appeals, and then back to the district court. And it also tells us the fact that there are only 19 cases here tells us that it has not been cited very often by other courts. There are a few other courts that have cited it, but not a lot. And so let's see, just to confirm that, let's select, this is the one that is assigned for class 265 F3rd 1232. Let's click on that. And if you read the text, you'll see that it contains basically the text that's presented in class. This gives us the subsequent history. Rehearing en banc was denied in this decision. There was another appeal, denial of certiorari by the United States Supreme Court. And so this gives us a brief, thumbnail of the entire history of the case. If we want to see how it's been treated by other courts, we'll click on Shepherdize, hit go. That brings us to the Shepard's summary. And we'll see that doesn't have much of a precedential history. There is one court that issued a cautionary analysis, meaning it distinguished the facts of its particular case from the Voyerdorm decision. And one court followed it, but for the most part, other courts have not really done much with it. And if we look at this, we can see that the only other cases that have really looked at Voyerdorm and relied on it anyway, all arose in, at least these two arose in Florida. And this one did as well. So that gives us a little bit more structured look at the Voyerdorm decision than we had before. So I'm going to pause for a moment here. Okay, I'm back. We're going to do one more topic-based search just to show you a few things on LexisNexis Academic. So I've gone back to the landing screen, the general search window, and entered a search term. Now, there's a couple of things to note. I showed you this briefly before, but you can, if you click on Advanced Options, you can fine-tune your search query. So you can select the type of content that you want to get responses from. You can limit your search by date, search within, after a certain date or within a certain period of time. And you can also create essentially Boolean search to search for results that are more structured or more specific. For now, we're just going to do a general search of all content type. For the term click wrap contracts, actually let me make it singular, click wrap contract. And as you will discover soon, the law of click wrap contracts is very important for any online business. So we do a search, and it produces 838 results. That's a lot, obviously. And we have a lot of cases, 144 cases, a lot of law review articles. So what's interesting here is that whereas with the earlier searches we did, most of the results were secondary sources like newspapers and periodicals and things. Here, most of the sources are law related. Cases from a number of different courts around the country, and a lot of coverage in law reviews. Law reviews are good research sources for you because while obviously doing primary source research is always important, and a law review is a secondary source. Part of what you need to do is get your arms around the law, learn about the law in a particular area. And legal periodicals like law reviews or other weekly or monthly legal magazines or newspapers written specifically for lawyers often provide practice overviews or topic overviews for practitioners that describe a new case or the law relating to a particular topic or something. So I would encourage you to look at magazines and journals as well when you are trying to find results. So let me just click on Inside Counsel here and see what it gives us as results. And you can see there's, a lot of these topics look worth investigating. 6 e-commerce pitfalls and how to avoid them. These are not topics, obviously, these articles. And it's a long piece, 2,400 plus words. That's a detailed piece. There's something in the Intellectual Property Corporate Legal Times, 1,500 words. So these would all be good places to go if you want to get your arms around the law in a particular area. And what I just want to point out now is different ways to sort of tailor your search results. So we'll go back to Edit Search, and this opens the existing search window with the existing search query we're working on. And so if you just wanted to get rid of, you didn't want law reviews in state and federal cases, but you wanted newspapers, you could just, deselect all and select that. Let's say that we just want state and federal cases. So we click on that, hit search, and that gives us the 144 cases only. So it gives you less that you have to wade through. It's interesting to note that almost a half of these, just a little bit short of a half of the cases, come from United States district courts. And if we list them right now, they're listed in their source order from sort of high court to low. But let's just list them from newest to oldest and see what we get. So have a case decided a few days ago. I'm doing this vidcast on September 15th, 2014. Here's a decision in Mendoza versus Microsoft Inc. That was just decided 4 days ago. I have no idea what it's about. I haven't looked at it before. But if we go look at the head notes, we can see this is an order compelling arbitration. And I am willing to bet you, without reading the case, that the dispute here concerns an arbitration clause in Microsoft's terms of use, where Mr. Mendoza was unhappy with Microsoft and brought a case in court and sued Microsoft for something or another. And Microsoft looked to the language of its click-wrap agreement and said any dispute has to be handled in an arbitration rather than a court proceeding, and so this is a case involving that question of law. You can also, we could search on, if I wanted to look at the cases from Massachusetts or cases from New Jersey, would make it, going through this list makes it easier to select just those cases. Let's say that we want to search within the results. You're interested in looking at seeing if any of these cases deal with retail businesses. So let's see if this produces any results. If we search within these results and add the term retail, then this may help us narrow the case list down, the resources down, to something that is closer to what we're looking for. Again, I'm just showing you the possibilities here. I'm not going to dive into these cases to decide or determine whether or not they are narrowly relevant to the search query that we've entered. But you get the point, I hope. A few other things to note. There are tutorials if you want to learn more about how to use LexisNexis, research guides, and on a variety of topics, how to find a specific legal case, how to find a document, how to find a critical review. So if you want further help on searching, this is a place to go. Academic Knowledge Center gives you guides on various topics, research topics, etc. So there are always on LexisNexis sort of hot topic links, items in the news that appear in this search window. You can also, if you don't want to use this general search box, click on look up a legal case. And you can, this is another way to narrow your search result. If you know the citation of a case, then you can search for it here. Or if you know one of the parties to a case, let's say Napster. Let's say we wanted to find Napster. So we can enter Napster's name, click go, and that gives us 41 cases that in which the word Napster appears. You will read a Napster decision later on the semester. I'm not going to get into these now. So again, the point here is to just show you different ways to get into the research. So that's it. Hopefully this has been of some help to you. It's always hard to know how well this is going to serve people's uses, but I use it. If it helps, great. If not, well, let me know what would be better. Thanks for listening.